Okay, now we look at the neuron fundamental. So before we move further, it's about the good word AI, all those things, and modeling, how computer can do the same. We need to understand the neuron. We need to understand the neuron. Once we understand the neuron, so we can imitate how the neuron can be modeled into computer kind of perception. Okay, neuron is knowledge perception, neuroscience perception. But in computer perception, you need a different part because computer is just base 0 and 1 and all those things. So we need to learn neuron so that later we can model it. Now let's look at the neuron in a little bit more detail. Okay. Once we understand the neuron, it's easily for us to modeling it. Okay. Into computer programming. Okay. Neuron. Neuron basically is contain of dendrite, where this is what we call dendrite. Okay, the small dendrite. There are then we got a soma inside there, got the nucleus. Another one is the bar here. This is called axon. Okay, so neuron basically, as you know, neuron is the basic component in brain, and neuron is a basic component that brain can perform marvelous job. Experience, saying, explanation, thinking, play football, running. In other words, neuron is the basic thing that human can do the thinking. That's the main important. So the neuron is a fundamental. And neuron basically, as I said just now, contain of dendrites, soma, and axon. So this is the axon, and this is the soma, contain a nucleus, and this soma has number of dendrite, million of dendrite. If this is a dendrite from other neuron, so they connect here, so this is a synapse. Okay, this is a synapse. So basically, let me circle it. So these are synapse. Okay, synapse. Okay, so these are basically a synapse. Synapse is where the dendrite from the other neuron are connected to the other neuron. So this connection basically is to pass the information. So in this case, you got synapse here. Probably this million of dendrite probably and mostly connect to million of other neuron dendrite. So within this one, you got many synapses. Okay. And let's see the next what we're gonna have here. And as you see here, so this is another neuron, and this is the sensor, skin, eyes, mouth, and so on, receive a data, pass the information, and the information passed to other neuron using the synapse. So this dendrite will be connected to other dendrite. The connection is synapse. So basically the information is passed over here and go to the synapse and then pass to other. In this case, I got one neuron, another neuron. But in fact, the brain contains million and billion of neuron. And the synapse are more ganda. We got 1 million, probably 10 million of synapse happen because one neuron basically have more than dendrite and more synapse. So you can imagine all information passed at once to the one neuron through the synapse. So the information pass is very alarm, and this information be able human brain to make a decision. So that's a general idea of how the neuron works. All right. Next slide is let's look at the next slide. Well, and this is the view of synapse. Okay, you will see here. This is the dendrite for the other neuron, and this is another dendrite of another neuron. So the space is neurotransmitter. It is a chemical signal here. All right, the chemical signal. So the electric signal will go through here, arouse the neurotransmitter, which is chemical signal. So the reaction of here will be open some door here to insert some chemical change in here. Then will produce another electrical signal here, and then it pass over. So this is what happened in the synapse, and basically this happen in all synapse, in all the dendrite. So this is how the process of synapse happen, and this is the same thing. Okay, synapse, what's happening. So if we look here, the action potential arrive to the axon terminal presynaptic neuron. So this is a presynaptic neuron. Okay, and simulate the release of packet of neurotransmitter in the synaptic cleft. So this is a synaptic cleft. So the yellow one is the electrical signal. All right. So the electrical signal come here, uh, stimulate the synaptic cleft and produce a neurotransmitter, and the neurotransmitter basically diffuse across the synaptic cleft. So neurotransmitter appear here, you're gonna reaction in sort of way that you open some window here so that some chemical can go in and go out. So in this case, this neurotransmitter bind the receptor at the postsynaptic neuron, causing a channel to open. Okay, so some channel are open here, and some chemical are in and out. So in this case, you're gonna uh, create another electrical signal here. So what's important here, basically, you got the important that we want to understand here. Basically, you have a electrical signal in this case, and then it pass over here to the neurotransmitter, and here will produce another electrical signal between this dendrite of one neuron and this dendrite of one neuron. So the electrical signal here, the yellow, this is the electrical signal, will be produced here again, but the energy, the power of the strength of electrical signal here is not the same like what we have here. So in this some sort of cases, you're gonna see that this synapse here, synaptic cleft here, play a role in changing the strength of the electrical signal. All right. So once again, the portion here, synaptic cleft here, basically the role is changing the electrical signal from this pre and post energy signal. So the strength of the signal here and here is quite different. So this is some sort of changing the thing based on something. Okay, it will change the strength between this and here based on number of neurotransmitter reaction and stimulate here, because this depends on the number of neurotransmitter and number of channel to be opened here that affect another electrical signal. All right. So that is the purpose you have here. Otherwise, you're going to connect all together. You don't have this. So this is basically the transmitter play a role something here in medical team, in biological team. Neurotransmitter play a role here. Probably a dopamine and all those things, you know. That's the role of this. So next, look at the slide here. All right. So in this case, we're gonna be more clearer the role of the neuron. You're gonna have three dendrite here. Okay, dendrite A, B, C from three different neuron. What you're gonna do here? So when this electrical signal come out here, you're gonna change the strength of the signal on the synapse. So the output here and the electrical signal here is not the same. As well here, you got electric signal here from another neuron, and something happened here, neurotransmitter, chemical thing, and the strength of the signal, electrical signal here is not similar to the electrical signal here. The same here as well. The electrical signal come from here, and the output here gonna not be the same electrical signal, simply because due of this synapse happen here. And remember this, you have a electrical signal here, you got electric signal here, you got electric signal here, you got three electrical signal. So these three electrical signal basically will be in the soma nucleus, and these three will be summed all together, become one. And when it become one, basically it is the signal will be added all together and produce what we have this. Okay, so this is the method of the signal. So this is the example of the signal. Okay, electrical signal. So you got here electric signal like this, you had here electric signal like this, and you got there is electrical signal like this. And when come across this river, across this synapse, the electric signal will be different. So this here and here will not the same. So at the end of the day, you got three electrical signal. So this will be sum up together, become one. And become one, you can measure the reading based on this meter, and you can produce like this. And the summation of these three basically, the summation of these three basically will produce more than the threshold. When it is more than threshold, it is called spike action potential. So this is where it's all about. Okay, the lesson here basically, you got two things important here. You got two things important here. The first, you got electric signal here are not the same with the output here because of this synapse happen. The same thing here. The electrical signal here pass to the synapse, and the output here will not be the same. New electric signal, the same as well here. So this synapse play an important role here in changing the electrical signal based on something, based on the neurotransmitter. Okay, and this signal basically will be adding together, these three signal will be add up together, become one. Okay, so two things there. First, you change the signal here, the strength, each of the signal, and the second, you sum up all the signal into one. So in this in this scenario, you got two things important. Okay, because that two things basically affect the signal uh, travel, the signal strength during the travel of the signal in the neuron. Okay, so that's two things are very important. And the nature, the architecture of the neuron also play an important role. In here you got one dendrite, and you got connect to another three dendrite. So we have to modeling something like this, you know. You got three dendrite connect to one dendrite, and each dendrite has a synapse, like a function. You can say it as a function here. We can put a function here, to imitate the neurotransmitter, and signal will pass over, and the function will change the signal strength, and here you can sum up all the signal. So about a signal processing a bit. Okay, and let's look at the other slide. And so before that, so when you sum up together, it become bigger like this. Okay, and these are due to the axon between the outside and inside, and the summation will be look bigger. Okay, all right, and next slide. And all right, this is the summary. Okay, so this is a summary. Okay, you got soma, dendrite, and axon. So one electrical signal coming here, one coming here, one coming here, one coming here. Then all together use synapse change electrical signal between these two dendrite, and all goes here. They're gonna sum up it all together and go pass through the same thing to another neuron. See the nature? You got one neuron connect to all neuron basically. You see here one neuron connect to all neuron. Okay, and yeah, this is, you just remember like this, you know. This is supposed to be modeled in computer. That is most important. So you have to imagine and remember all this kind of figure. Okay, nature and architecture. So basically, this is what the spike, the signal goes through. Okay, and axon conduct information away from the cell body. So axon basically bringing all this information to the other one, and the length here will be sometime it very long. Right, and dendrite receive information from other neuron via synapse. So dendrite receive another information from other dendrite uh, via synapse. So between the synapse is important. This is a function, and this is summation. And summation, another one is one neuron connect to more than two neuron, and they pass all the information to all the same. And here synapse then happen, you change the strength, and they sum up together. And you can imagine that some of the signal spike when come here, the synapse weaken the signal, and here they become dead. No more spike here happen, something like that, you know. So the nature simulation is some sort like that. All right, and so these are the similar thing. So what's important here basically, the threshold is important. If we more than threshold, the spike is counted and pass over to the next slide. If the signal is below threshold, it will be uh, left out. They don't count. Okay, if the signal less than threshold, it will be left out. It's not count. When it is not count, mean when you're not count, basically this is dead. No information is passed over. Not important. Okay, that's the basic mechanism of neuron, how it works and how it passes the information to each other. So the main important role here is the summation, the synapse, and then the layout. You got one information, move to other three, and here you got another one neuron. Probably it move more to another, connect to another 10 neuron, or here connect to the 10,000 neuron, and it connect to the 1 million neuron, then right, and it will goes on until how many layer. So we don't know that how many layer. So this layer probably they convey some information, something about judgment, thinking, something like that. Okay, so that's the way how the neuron and brain works. And one important thing is, so this is the summation. of the signal. Okay, signal J, you got J, this is one synapse happen, neuron, and you got one J and J2. So J1 and J2 is will be summation. Okay, J to J, J1, J2 until Jn will be sum. We do total together. We total together, it becomes, so if these two are summed together, it become a bit higher. Okay, the signal be a bit higher, and this is basically the function of the synapse. Okay, the function of the synapse, because synapse will change the strength of the, the signal. First you sum up, then you got a synapse here to change the function. At the end of the day, it become spike. So this is your, if this is 0, mean it is just over the threshold. If it is positive, then it is plus the resting period, mean it is a spike more than the threshold. Okay, so this is a threshold. Okay, so this is a threshold, so we need a bigger this one plus the resting place, so it become more than threshold, then it can be counted to be fired. So when it higher than the threshold, we can call it fire. Okay, fired. So it goes to another neuron. If it less than threshold, the sum up here still less than threshold, so the signal will, the neuron will not fire. Not fired mean it is not count, it is dead, it is uh, left out. Okay, not really make significant effect uh, to do the whole layout. They not go again. They just stop there and finish. If the spike is not below the threshold. So these are some concept how information are passed over. So basically, it is a signal, not the information. Signal means it represents something of the data. Okay, the signal represents something of the data. Okay, now let's look at the. All right. Now, we're gonna take a rest for a while before we move to the modeling single neuron.